Hello everyone. Good morning and or afternoon and or evening, depending on where you are. Alright, Wigglies. Now, as you all know, I'm not going to respond to DMs unless you give me $250 a month. Excuse me, $100. But Albert, I'm afraid that you simply are not leaving your streams on. Like you haven't even been watching my streams like the duration of entire stream in a single week. I'm afraid you're just going to have to work harder to get that regular role. Actual streaming hell. Hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing okay. I'm getting used to this streaming thing. I'm definitely learning my limits. It is difficult to do my own streams, do Down the Rabbit Hole as a full-time job, and join other people for streams. I am finding my balance. I still would like to join other people for streams, but I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring out where my limit is. And it's especially stressful right now because I have so much work to do for Down the Rabbit Hole. But afterwards, we'll see. I really have just so much to finish because I'm trying to get this video done by early May. So today we're doing something simple, comfy. We're gonna just read. As much as Mother Horse Eyes is comfy. And yeah, actually, you know what? Let me finish up my tea, and I'll tell you all about something rather exciting that I did yesterday. But first, of course, thank you very much to everyone who subbed. Baron Von Jarvis, who's been subbed for 3 months now. Timothy Snyder, who mods the stream, is also subbed. Dude, it's okay. Calm down. Calm down. No, thank you very much. Subbed for 20 months. Because I used to stream sort of off and on before I started streaming regularly. Ooh. Calypso has subbed for 3 months. And Starshard chucked 100 bits to get the hype train rolling. Thank you very much. And of course, to all of you, welcome to... I want to make sure I get this right. How loud am I when I talk like this and I'm this close to the mic? Welcome to the bonus bean room. Okay, perfect. Oh god, we have more. Oh god, we have more. Pineapple. Hey, Pineapple. Thank you so much for subbing for 3 months. And Doc Yanar? I'm gonna say Doc Yanar is subbed for 2 months now. To all of you, thank you very much. And Unity Burb, who, again, used their sub, which they get once a month. They get to highlight a message with their sub. They decided to say, come. Okay. Jesus Christ. So yesterday, I did something quite exciting. I'm not sponsored by them, but I am working with the company that makes EVE Online to make this Down the Rabbit Hole. In particular, the way they're helping me is giving me access to old resources, as well as their knowledge, because their community team especially has a lot of collective knowledge. So, their community team gave me 2 hours of their time yesterday to listen to what I had of the script, because the new Down the Rabbit Hole, it has the script has just passed 10,000 words, and I'm expecting it to be about 40,000. I only was corrected by them, I think 3 times, and 2 of those were things I included knowing that they might be wrong and hoping that they would have the answers for me. So that feels pretty good. That feels really good, actually. that I've got my facts so straight. It's something that I'm very self-conscious about, because there's always something I get wrong in my videos or something that I miss. The May Island video had some historical inaccuracies that I really was not comfortable with, and I wish that I could go back and fix. But so this one, I really am trying to get things right, and I know I'm going to miss things. But I'm hoping that their community team, since they, one of them has been playing since the game launched, and the other one has been playing since 2004, 2005, so only a year or 2 after it started. They're able to say, hey, you missed this, that might be important, or this fact is a little bit wrong. So I'm quite chuffed about how well it was received. They were really enjoying it. It was so sweet. They said, it's like, take as much time as you want. We're really enjoying listening to this. It was very, very sweet of them. Yeah, I am going to make a mistakes video. The concern that I have is releasing it in a time where it's not going to damage my place in the algorithm. I'm probably going to do it a few months after this new video. I intended to do it after the May Island video. But yeah, I have every intention of continuing the mistakes videos. I feel like they're less necessary than they were before, because back when I was starting, I made a lot more errors. But now... yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about my work on Down the Rabbit Hole. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, because it's the writing, but it's also me managing the music and the graphics, and lots and lots of meetings. It's surprising how many meetings you have to keep everything straight when you're managing a project. And I know, like, because I'm the boss, I don't have to have any superfluous meetings. I get to just have the meetings that are important. But that's still a lot of meetings. So, something I wanted to do before we read Mother Horse Eyes with all of you is I wanted to address my particular brain rot that I've had recently. And I promised, and I'm keeping to the promise, that this is not going to be a regular stream talking about crypto. But after watching the Crypto Land animation, I got quite curious, because there was a scene where they were looking at a bunch of dead projects. You know what? Let's watch it together again, because I have it queued up and ready. Okay, let me see. Bonk. Yeah, you guys like that? You guys like that face? It's a good face, right? I have gone so trash brain on this, but let's just take a peek at this real quick.
Those stars and you'll get to the moon.
That was fun.
Boy, we are in Crypto Beach, and fun is the norm here. Before you invest, study the best.
Oh yeah, they took down this animation, so this is a re-upload.
What do we say when investors make the test? Let's make a deep dive so we can survive. We don't want to end.
Okay. There are 3 things of note in this particular scene. 2 of them are relatively simple. Satoshi's treasure refers to... that's funny. Oh no, I just realized. You guys remember... oh, what was it? Ben. Ben Hughes. Ben Hughes, that's funny. I can't believe that we already have a through line between, like, from Crypto Land to Ben Hughes. So Satoshi's treasure refers to the big stash of Bitcoin that is sitting, that was mined by the original creator of Bitcoin. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, it was much, much easier to mine crypto because, like, you were more likely to actually like solve the equation and actually mint the, or not a mint, to mine the crypto. So you get diminishing returns like over time, but early on, this one person with just their little setup managed to mine a bunch of Bitcoin. Like, the creator just mined a bunch for himself back when it was very easy, and he has held on to all of it. The thing that's really scary for the crypto world, of course, is what happens if he decides to sell? He has enough crypto saved up and stored away, or maybe lost. We don't know where it is. It's all in a cold wallet somewhere. But if he decides to sell all of it, guess what happens to Bitcoin and probably crypto in general? It all crashes. So there's just a bunch of money that one person has that if he sold would just ruin the market. Because crypto is stable and secure. Because crypto's a good investment. The other thing here that's rather simple is Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was a Magic the Gathering online exchange. Mt. Gox, MTGOX, Magic the Gathering online exchange. It was basically something that a teenager threw together to trade cryptocurrency. It originally was a Magic the Gathering exchange, like where people could buy and sell cards. But when he realized that he could make more money on crypto, he decided that he decided that he was going to change it over. But then he didn't put the site together terribly well, and tons of money was stolen by hackers. So he passed it off to someone else. He sold the exchange, realizing that he might face prosecution for being a bank, and neglected to tell the person before the sale that there was a ton of missing crypto. So that was like the first cryptocurrency exchange. Quadriga. Oh boy. I decided to figure out a little bit more about Quadriga, and I found a podcast made by someone who makes who actually covers cryptocurrency and is involved in crypto and invests in crypto. Invests, as much as you can invest. It's gambling. It's effectively gambling. But Quadriga was put together by two people. It was a cryptocurrency exchange in Canada that wasn't terribly popular until the most popular crypto exchange fell apart, and then Quadriga basically took its place and everyone moved over there. It controlled, I think he said 9% of the crypto market. 9% of crypto was bought and sold on Quadriga. However, something that nobody knew is that from the beginning, it was made as a scam. It was specifically, like, the way that things were set up was, it is very difficult to interpret the way that Quadriga was set up as anything other than a scam from the beginning. And this would make sense because nobody knew that the two people who put together Quadriga had sordid pasts. One person, so one of them had actually gone to prison for money laundering. That was how he had made a ton of his money. He was involved in, multiple times in money laundering and had gone to prison. And he had changed his name multiple times to try to hide his identity. The other person involved was a person that ran Ponzi schemes over and over and over again. That was how he made a lot of his money, specifically in the crypto market. He would do Ponzi schemes for crypto and then run away with a ton of money. So that fact, and that's actually where the Q on that computer screen comes from, I think. Q, what unrelated to QAnon, completely unrelated, refers to the person who did a whole bunch of digging and discovered this information about the second founder, who eventually became the only founder as the money launderer left. But then so I'm giving you the chronological version, not the version that people learned. Like, this is chronological in terms of like how things happened. So this person was running Quadriga entirely off of his laptop. Okay, I want to make sure I get my thoughts straight here, because this is a bit complicated. Now, let's suppose that you are a person who is running a crypto exchange almost entirely solo. What do you do with it? Well, let's suppose you are a crypto enthusiast with hyper brain rot. What would you do with it? That's right, he gambled it all on crypto. Specifically, he took a bunch of the money that was being put into the exchange and bought a bunch of Ethereum with it. Now, Ethereum wasn't nearly as like well known as it is now. And I guess I should specify what exactly an exchange is. I'll get the music going again. An exchange, basically, you take your money and you put it into someone else's wallet, and then that company with that wallet holds all of the cryptocurrency. You are effectively trusting someone with your money. Now, with a normal bank, there are a lot of things in place. There are a lot of regulations, and a lot of these people have a vested interest in remaining in good standing with the public and not doing messy things with your money. Although, we all know what happened in 2008. They basically gambled everyone's money on bonds. But even then, right, they were guaranteed by the government. So even if the bank does fucky things with your money, you're unlikely to lose it all. It's guaranteed so many different ways. But with the crypto exchange, there are none of those scruples, typically. And multiple times, people have just taken the money that people have trusted with them and run off with it, hence the term, not your keys, not your coin. Quadriga was like that. He took everyone's money and then bought a bunch of Ethereum with it. And if the price of Ethereum had gone up, he would have had a lot of money. However, in 2017 or 2018, the price of Ethereum crashed, and he lost all of the money, all of it. He gambled and lost. It was a very high risk, and he lost all the money. And when I'm talking about like money, I'm talking hundreds of millions. Now, he's in a lot of trouble. That's funny. I need that Simpsons clip as just on a soundboard right here available. I really need a stream deck. I'm going to get one eventually. So what does he do? Well, he has a lot of money from his scams over the years, and he loves traveling. He goes on a trip to India where he's with his wife, and he allegedly dies due to complications from Crohn's disease. However, if there was a time to leave, it would have been then. And if you are going to fake your death, India is where you do it. So a lot of people believe that he is still alive. Now, there's no evidence that he actually is alive. If he covered his tracks, he did it very, very well. And he fucked his wife over in the process. Because she was given Quadriga in the will. So she was responsible for everything. So he screwed, like, if he really did, like, whether he died or he just ran away and faked his death, he screwed his wife over. Because she was responsible for everything with Quadriga. Yeah, there's no evidence that he's alive. But boy howdy was the timing perfect. Right? And everything, like, checks out. Reporters went in and interviewed the people who, like, were involved with it, but boy, it is a mess. Anyways, oh god. What's the deal with American politics banning books? Okay, right, yeah, that actually is a little more complicated. Yeah, I'm only going to dip into it. I'm only going to dip into it a little bit, but the banning of mouse is even worse than you think it is, because it wasn't, so the reason ostensibly that mouse was banned wasn't even because of the reasons that you think it might be. It's not even political. The reason that was cited is because there are naked people in it. And the person who, like, led the charge for banning mouse thought that showing children any form of nakedness would break them. So it's actually a dude's hang-ups about naked bodies. It's even stupider than you think it is. Now, of course, whether that's an excuse or not, who knows? But that's... Thank you, Vex, for discovering that. Honestly, this kind of book banning is very common in America. Like I don't know why this one in particular got very popular. I don't know why everyone cares about this particular group of people banning a particular book, but banning books is very common in counties, school districts in America. Like, this is nothing new. Like, it's not a sign of the times. This has just been going on for forever. So, how about the reason that we're all actually here? Because I'm done with the brain rot. I've read Mother Horse Eyes a few times, but I don't know. It's almost like, I know that it's a very uncomfortable narrative, but it's almost a comfort thing for me at this point. Oh, I'm so sorry, Azure Night Terror. I totally missed your sub. Azure Night Terror subbed. And a different Dan has been subbed for 7 months now. Thank you so much, both of you. And of course, welcome to the bonus bean room. Okay. Okay, how about Mother Horse Eyes? Now, this is for all of those people who put my stream on to do something else. Feel free to put me on the second monitor, because this is going to be a lot of reading. Now, we've been on for about 30 minutes. We'll go for about 30 minutes, and then we'll do our stretch and tea break for 5 minutes. And then we'll just go for another hour. I found that the breaks are really nice to keep my stamina up. So I hope that everyone is encouraged to also get up and get their own drink, their own liquid, their own hydration, their own libation even. I have it already? Shall we begin? We'll start with post 1, and I will say, if you leave and then come back, don't worry. Mother Horse Eyes is a very fractured narrative, and there is no bad time to come in on it. So if you leave and then you come back in a later stream or something like that, don't worry. You will still be able to glean the majority of the enjoyment out of it. Post 1. So this was posted on April 21st, 2016. A unite a stage a coup a revolution to bring a genocide a new world a. In the MK Ultra experiments, the CIA dosed unwitting subjects with LSD to see how they would react. What has not yet come to light is that MK Ultra was an intra-agency project. The CIA created new departments within the CIA and fed them steady doses of LSD and other psychoactives to see how the departments would diverge and mutate away from normal departments. Whole projects and hierarchies were created, with everybody involved being more or less unwittingly under the influence of LSD. This is how the restraint bed portals and flesh interfaces were first created, i.e. from a heavily psychomutated hierarchy. The entire thing had to be eliminated, but the technology it created has been revolutionary. Oh, Lizard in the City says it's their first time listening to this and they don't know what to expect. Oh. Oh, you're in for a treat. Now, I'd like to say all of these posts were replies to random people in random threads. The Strategic Hamlet Program. In Vietnam, the U.S. government tried to pacify the country village In Vietnam, the U.S. government tried to pacify the country village by village using the Strategic Hamlet Program, basically creating villages where there were no or little Viet Cong influence. They tried more extreme experiments where they completely isolated villages or groups of villages, allowing absolutely nobody to enter or exit for periods of up to 4 years. In some of the villages, people simply starved to death. In other, more self-sufficient villages, the people managed to scrape by. It was noted that in many of the villages where this technique was tried, messianic or millenarian movements sprang up. In 16 separate instances, villages were able to independently invent flesh interfaces and non-electrical portals, and it was surmised that these villages were being collectively dosed with LSD for long periods of time, and their intellectual mutations allowed for these advances. The flesh interfaces were eventually destroyed by the North Vietnamese army at a terrible cost in lives. Post 3. Nuclear sub in the Falklands. I'm surprised they used nuclear subs in the Falklands, considering the battle's proximity to the undersea incident zone surrounding the so-called Artegus portal. As I understand it, the portal was opened because of experiments taking place in the CIA's Antarctic station in the early 80s, and Falklands quickly became a center for portal research. Being underwater, the portal had an enormous incident zone, and segmented whales and other undersea debris would regularly wash up on the island's shores. They found one whale that had been segmented cleanly in half by an incident zone disturbance, proving a perfect cross-section of the creature. They also found hundreds of the chitinous cruciform creatures, clearly non-terrestrial in origin. Anyways, if a nuclear sub had wandered into the incident zone, it could have been disastrous, but I guess they considered the risk acceptable. Does it say in which subreddit the stories were posted? Well, there's a link to the comment, but I think a lot of them were deleted. Here we go. It is still around. In fact, we can see some of the replies. Flesh interface? Non-electric portal? What is a flesh interface? For someone whose account is a few hours old, you have some fucked up comment history. Source? Da fuck you smoking? What are you? Sounds fake. What? By the way, have you seen Our Conspiracy? I think you'd love it. AKA Vaults? What? I read this thread when it was originally posted and didn't know what it was then, too. There are many reasons why drugs are illegal. Because this is right in the beginning. People have no idea what's going on here. Oh, yeah, if you'd like a link to the video where I kind of explain what Mother Horse Eyes is. Let me, actually, you know what? Timothy, are you there? Do you think you could do that for me real quick? Fourth post, harvest populations. The Soviets designated large portions of the Ukraine countryside as harvest populations. Basically, their food and water supplies were dosed with LSD until they had achieved what the Soviets called integration. This meant that the local populations had independently invented flesh interfaces. The Soviet army would then quarantine the area and try to remove the flesh interfaces for their own use. This was usually without success and with great loss of life. Many of the soldiers and scientists were segmented, as often happens in an incident zone, so they ended up with people missing limbs, cut in half, etc. What's interesting is that the people could live for quite some time despite segmentation. This is what led the Soviets to believe that their missing body parts still existed, albeit in some unknown place. So one of the leading theories of the time was interdimensionality. Quite mistaken. Fifth post, Dubai incidents. Dubai probably has the highest rate of free-floating non-interface incidents of any major metropolitan area in the world. In one incident, a large group of migrant workers was segmented in an underground facility. Perfect cross-sectional segmentation along the frontal plane. You could see their lungs working, food being digested, blood pumping on the inside of the heart, everything. They lived for almost 5 months in this condition. Absolutely fascinating to see in person. There was also a group of school children who were very slightly segmented, just ends of fingers and bits of the calves and such. Hardly fatal wounds, yet they all died within 2 months. Some showed signs of intellectual mutation. There are no known flesh interfaces in Dubai. However, it is surmised that the architecture is actually based on interface geometry and carries some latent interface-like power. Mass segmentations remain one of the most mysterious aspects of the interfaces. They seem to show that the interfaces do indeed concentrate on flesh, living up to their name. Sixth post, Elizabeth Bathory. We look at Elizabeth Bathory as an example of pre-LSD enlightenment, i.e. someone seeming to attempt to build a flesh interface before the invention of LSD. How can this be explained? Perhaps she ingested some ergot. Right, it's ergot. It's just ergot. Ha ha ha. Or some other naturally occurring psychotropic chemical. Or perhaps her mind was simply attuned to whatever intellectual processes need to occur to invent a flesh interface. The Book of Revelations is also considered to be a description of a flesh interface, especially the description of New Jerusalem. My problem with this is that it is all speculative. It's like when modern psychologists diagnose historical figures. I'm uncomfortable with this level of speculation. I will always regard the first instance of a flesh interface to have occurred in Treblinka, 1944. The geological disturbances, partial tunnels, so-called interdimensionality, and wealth of clearly segmented bodies leave no doubt of its existence. The Soviets have documented this. I want to see what their replies were, because a lot of these were deleted. I am intrigued by and terrified of you. Can you ALI5 this whole comment for me? I'm so lost. Title, A Tantalizing Theory. Seventh post. Basically, when you look at the stories of Elizabeth Bathory's behavior, it seems like she is trying to build a flesh interface. But it is known that in order to invent a flesh interface, one must be under the influence of LSD for extended periods. As LSD hadn't been invented during her life, it's probably just coincidence. Still a tantalizing theory, though. Eighth post. Define a flesh interface. Obviously, I can't define a flesh interface in terms of purpose or composition or mechanism. I can only list the various phenomena which are related to them. Chief among these is the creation of an incident zone wherein objects are spontaneously segmented, i.e., parts of the object simply disappear, yet the objects continue to behave as if the missing parts are still present. Also, you see complex tunnels created in the earth. These have been termed ant farms in undersea interfaces. You get chitinous cruciform organisms. These sui generis organisms are thought to be the result on evolutionary processes which took place in an environment other than Earth. This is speculation, but in this case I agree with it. Then there have been the giant metallic cylinders which appear and experience continuous spontaneous segmentation. These are usually at least 10 meters in diameter and can get much larger and only occur in very large interfaces, i.e. portals. Beyond this, the phenomena are too various to mention and different for each interface. Let me check something. I want to see if I can make this... Hey, there we go. Okay. Oh, and it extends off the side. Oh, no. Oh, God. The illusion is broken. Let me... You know what? Donk. Okay. Is that a little bit better? What do you all think? Bonk. Okay, that'll do. Portals. 9th post. Many people think that a portal is simply a large flesh interface. This is true. A portal is a large flesh interface, but it is also more than that. A portal is, as the name implies, a way of sending objects between the portal site and wherever the various locations that have been found beyond the portals are located, i.e. the so-called alien sister cities. Portals are usually, but not always, accompanied by the large, fluctuating metal cylinders. The largest above-water portal that I know of occurred in Novaya Zemlya and existed for several weeks before it was destroyed by the Russian so-called Tsar Bomba. In this case, the metal cylinders were miles high and covered with features rarely seen on other cylinders, blinking lights, nodules, so-called antennae. What is this? What? Hold on. That period is actually a link. I'm going to check it before we look at it on stream, but... Oh, it's a piece of art on Tumblr. Check it. I think that's supposed to be one of them. They took on a very artifactual appearance, i.e. they seem to be constructed technology rather than naturally occurring phenomena. Are the cylinders themselves artifacts being sent through the portals, or are they phenomena created by the flesh interfaces in the way a mushroom cloud is created by a nuclear explosion? This is unclear. I wish I could show you guys pictures of the Novaya Zemlya cylinders. They truly were beautiful, rising miles into the clear Arctic air like great alien towers, tinged blue by the vastness of the distances involved. Though it was certainly necessary to destroy them, and we owe the Soviets a great debt for their tireless efforts to collapse the interface, I sometimes wish they were still there. At least then, there would be something. Some evidence. 10th post. Novaya Zemlya. In response to what the CIA had accomplished with their Antarctic station in Artigas, the Soviets built a larger station in Novaya Zemlya in the Arctic. Novaya Zemlya, okay. Thank you, Orthogonal Caster. I feel like this is one of those things where it's in another language, and even if I put the emphasis on it right, it's still going to be wrong. Kind of like when people say, it's not pronounced Caesar, it's pronounced Kaiser. It's like, actually, no. There's, if you're interested about this, you can look up, there's a really good video on YouTube about this from a Latin scholar. 30,000 prisoners and an exceptionally pure gas concentration created a flesh interface which went through all 7 stages in less than 13 minutes and became a full-fledged portal. Within a day, the typical fluctuating metallic cylinders were visible, and within 3 days they were extending miles into the sky. The Soviets quickly realized that the portal was growing out of control. In previous instances, they had simply bombed the site from the air, but in this case, the enormous cylinders and attendant incident zone extending to the edge of space prevented this as well as missile strikes. There was also an exceptionally large lateral incident zone around the portal, with segmentation occurring miles out from the site. Alarmed by the zone's uncontrolled growth and the growing underground tunnels, aka ant farms, the Soviets worked feverishly to construct a hydrogen bomb of unprecedented power which could be detonated from outside the incident zone and still collapse the portal. The steady rate of growth in the incident zone provided them with an exact deadline, which they managed to meet with only 2 hours to spare. Any later, and the bomb could not have been placed so as to collapse the interface. In short, the world came within 2 hours to being subjected to an uncontrolled flesh interface and perhaps the end of civilization as we know it. Before the portal was collapsed, however, the Soviets had gained first-hand knowledge of one of the so-called sister cities. In other words, somebody had gone into the portal and come back. 11th post. Lisa's Dream. I've always found Lisa's Dream to be a good starting place when trying to understand the psychological effects of travel. Lisa was a 9-year-old girl sent through the Groom Lake interface in 1975. The Groom Lake interface connects to the so-called sister city, technically persistent locus, known as the Hanging Temples. So where does this go? You know what? Let's peek. Okay. Gotcha. She stayed there for 5 days of normal time, but only 48 seconds of beyond time, a marked discrepancy. Upon returning, she did not recall anything beyond becoming drowsy for a moment. She slept well that night, and in the morning she recounted a dream to the doctors before dying later in the day. A direct transcript of the audio from her interview. It was spring and it had been raining all day, but the rain stopped just before it was going to be sunset, so all the clouds were purpley and the sky was really orange, and the grass was all wet with rain and there were fireflies around, like all in the sky, way up in the sky, big ones. And me and my grandma went out to these hills way out past the edge of town, and under the hills there were people sleeping, not in caves, they were buried under the hills. The people were asleep, but they were hugging each other. Families like moms and dads and little kids, just packed together a few thousand. The hills were just blown up like balloons because they were so full of people, like a pregnant woman's stomach. My grandma told me to lie down, but I didn't want to. She laid down and got sucked into the ground. I heard her voice coming out of the ground telling me to come inside. 12th post. Only a matter of time. Grrr. This is my hill. It would be easy to say that the Soviets discovered the secret of survivable travel because they were more ruthless, more willing to sacrifice innocent lives. But there was really no lack of ruthlessness on the part of the CIA. It was really just a matter of approach. The Soviets approached the mystery of the flesh interfaces the same way they approached their space program. The first humans in space, the so-called lost cosmonauts who were never officially acknowledged, were just ordinary people, culled from the gulags with no more control over their missions than Laika the dog. The Americans, on the other hand, started with professional men, usually from the military. Likewise, when it was discovered that objects and even animals which entered the flesh interfaces occasionally returned unharmed, the Americans began training men to enter the interfaces. Because they culled their men from certain military ranks, they were all of similar ages. The Soviets, however, used prisoners who had a much wider age range, and so they were able to discover the essential correlation. The younger a person was, the more likely they were to survive travel, and the longer they would survive after travel. They discovered that 20-somethings were much more likely to survive, albeit in a horribly altered state, than older people. They discovered that people in their early 20s fared better than those in their late 20s. Teenagers fared even better. So, despite all moral compunction, it was really a matter of time before they sent a child through. And it was only after the first round of children went through that they gained any idea of what was on the other side. Okay, good. How's the music, by the way? Is the balance of the music okay? I think it might be a little bit loud. It's good? Perfect. 13th post. The village. Until we found the village, we had suspected that the detectors were just props, just toys given to us by the CIA guys to reassure us. Nobody trusted the spooks. 3 days through the jungle and these detectors had not detected a fucking thing. But before we even saw the first hut, the needles on all the detectors started moving in unison. If they were phony toys, it was a cool little special effect. The needles swayed back and forth, and all the little metal boxes let out this spooky ooh sound all in unison, like a school choir. Very weird. We turned them off. As instructed, we treated every Vietnamese as combatants and killed them all. There wasn't any resistance, though. A few had weapons, but most were unarmed. None fought back. They didn't even run. They were just sitting around, lazing in the sun, and we shot them where we found them. Grim work, and very weird. That probably spooked us out more than the detectors. It was like they were waiting to die. After clearing the village, we didn't know what to do, so we turned one of the detectors on and wandered around to see what was up. The detector started going nuts around one of the bigger huts in the middle of the village. We had already cleared it, but we went in again. There was a big altar inside with candles and Buddhas and gold signs with, that is a slur, writing and shit. We figured maybe one of the Buddha statues was setting the detectors off, but no. The hut was very hot and muggy, even by the incredibly humid standards of Vietnam. It was incredibly, incredibly humid in there. Even the Buddha statues were sweating. Their faces were literally coated with drops of moisture. Everybody noticed that there was something weird going with the air. There was something off about the pressure, so we just tossed everything, picked all the shit up and tossed it out of the hut. Sure enough, when we picked up the big platform that held the altar, there was something under it. It was a pit made of flesh, maybe 5 feet across and going down about 20 feet before curving out of sight. When I say made of flesh, I mean it looked like the inside of somebody's throat. Wet, reddish, flesh-looking stuff. We had heard of them building tunnels, but this was... we really couldn't even understand what we were looking at. It was breathing. The flesh kinda rippled, and this hot air came out, and it felt and smelled just like somebody breathing right on your face, enough to make you sick. They told us we would know it when we saw it. Well, we saw it, and we knowed it. We radioed in the coordinates, and got the fuck out of there. Hold on, I want to see the replies. I am reading through this guy's comment history, and I don't know whether I am thoroughly impressed or spooked out of my mind. I've read all of these now. They're pretty good. He's been posting them all day in front page posts. Wonder if it's publicity for something. Yeah, there was some suspicion that Mother Horse Eyes was actually an advertisement campaign for something. Great sentence, but incredibly again. What did I just read? Fuck, 610 is spread to Vietnam. That's not good. Okay. Oh my god. Wait a minute. Oh, you can change your name on Reddit, I'm willing to bet. Right? Can anyone answer that? Can you change your name on Reddit? Because I was like, I thought that QAnon was not 6 years old. I thought it was... No, you can't? What? No, look. This person's name is John QAnon, but his account is... Like, he made this post 6 years ago. What? No, you must be able to change your name. I thought QAnon... Well... Whatever. Oh, is it John Q? Is John Q a thing? Hold on. John Q is a movie. Okay. Okay, that answers it. Okay. I was really scared that I'd stumbled upon something. Almost. That is a very, very unfortunate name. No, QAnon is younger than 6 years old. John Q. Oh, it's an old expression. John Q. Public. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I get it. Fred's passive went off. Oh my god, I didn't even realize it. You're right, I have a passive. Vinny's passive is that he glitches games. My passive is I find rabbit holes just by looking. Okay. Christ. Okay. We narrowly avoided a rabbit hole. What's Mike's passive? Everything he touches just gets covered in cum. This post history reads like a no sleep journal in reverse. Hold my beer, I'm going in. What? Do go on. I got too into that too fast and it needs to be a book. We are so very sorry, Bard. Man, you might consider publishing some short fiction. I want to believe. Viet Dune. These Marines. No Zerg nearby. A Nidus Canal. Oh, that's a StarCraft thing. Right. I never got into StarCraft. Okay. We'll do one more post. It's a little bit long. We'll do one more post and then we'll take a sippy break. And we'll be back. Legit 50 plus awareness checks constantly. If I were any crazier, I'd start making connections that make no sense. And then I'd just be crazy. Like normal crazy. Not like this weird passive crazy. I feel like if I were any more perceptive, I would start making absolutely erroneous connections and just be a conspiracy theorist. 14th post. Encasement. Encasement was certainly not something we were expecting. It really changed our whole perspective on what exactly was occurring. We thought that the flesh interfaces were just like pipes that went from one location to another, perhaps extra-dimensionally or by some other magic. But when the first subject came back encased, we realized that... Well, I'm not sure what we realized. We realized, for the thousandth time in our dealings with the flesh interfaces, that we were dealing with something really beyond us. That's why I call it magic. They were so far beyond our understanding, it was basically like meddling with some kind of black magic. The first subject to come back encased was an 8-year-old girl we had named Jingles. We started naming the kids dogs' names to try to depersonalize them, to assuage the guilt. This was done by the recommendation of CIA psychiatrists, but it didn't work very well. We all still felt like shit. But what choice did we have? Could we just ignore the flesh interfaces and not study them? Perhaps, but you must realize that the Soviets were also studying them. That changed the whole equation. Perhaps, alright, if they, well, the ethical issues have been debated to death. What's done is done. We dropped the bomb in Hiroshima, we gave those blankets to the Indians, and we sent those kids through the portals, and now it's all just part of history. Anyways, we sent Jingles into flesh interfaces, and an object returned 2 minutes later, which is a pretty long time for an interface. It was a large organic sac lined with veins, vaguely resembling a human lung about 4 feet long. We x-rayed it, and saw the skeleton inside, and cut it open. Sure enough, Jingles was inside, naked and covered with blood, with no hair on her head. There was an umbilical cord attached to her belly button, which was attached to some sort of placenta. We had a problem with the surgeons trying to harm her. It was later realized that her blood, the blood from the sac, had high concentrations of an exotic LSD analog. It was getting absorbed through the skin. The placenta was like an LSD factory, pumping out millions of doses. This particular blend made people pretty violent, so we had to put on containment suits. Jingle's skin was flawless, like a newborn's. No wrinkles on the back of her neck, no wrinkles on her palms except the major ones. She had the form of an 8-year-old girl, but seemed a lot newer. We did MRIs on her bone plates and found they were still highly underdeveloped, as if she was newborn. We wondered, is this really Jingles or some kind of clone? What sort of apparatus could have possibly produced this clone, and why? After a day of observation, she awoke. We weren't sure if her mind was still there. Perhaps she had been wiped clean. So, we waited, asking her questions. At first, her behavior was like that of an infant, just smiling and gurgling and clasping her hands. It was pretty eerie seeing that kind of behavior from an 8-year-old. Really, it was pretty eerie looking at her at all. Her skin was so pure and glowing, she looked like an absolute angel. Anyways. After a while, she started babbling, saying little phrases. In a matter of hours, she seemed to progress through the various stages of development. Her sentence structure and awareness became more and more sophisticated. As soon as she could understand sentences, we started questioning her again. Who was she? She said her name. She knew her past. This wasn't just a blank clone. This may or may not have been the original girl, but she seemed to have the same mind as the original. So then we asked her the question that we wanted to know, the question that had plagued us for years, the question that had led us, in the face of all humanity and morality, to send a child into a living apparatus of death. What did you see? What's on the other side? Her expression grew thoughtful. She was such a thoughtful, bright girl. We chose her for her intelligence. So young and bright, and we just threw her. Anyways, she thought about the question, and it seemed that we would finally get an answer, a real answer. I remember the sense of anticipation in the room. It was like nothing I've ever felt before or since. Remember, I quit the program that day, so I was never able to question another subject. Anyways, she said to us, "Inside the chamber, I started to feel drowsy. Then everything changed, and I knew what I saw. I had seen it before. I said to myself, this is like the room in Grammy's house, the quiet room." We asked her what she meant by this. She replied with these words, her final words before she simply stopped living and sat there dead with her eyes still on us. She said, "Come unto these yellow sands." Then what is this? This is... Oh. Spark Notes is dead. Haha. Oh. Lost in Bokeh. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Just subbed for 6 months in advance. Gosh, thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. You're subbing right as we're about to take a break, actually. But you will, in short order, everyone who is subbing, actually, in short order, will have some animated emotes that are coming down the line. Pronunciation is fine. This is quality content. Look, if I don't get $150 in donations in the next hour, I'm stopping the stream. No, I'm just kidding. That definitely. What if Fred gets super arrested and goes to jail for 6 months? I mean, I'll just have someone with a phone come up and film me in the jail cell. Quality content. Oh dear. Okay, everyone. Now, for those of you who are new, here's what we're gonna do. Everyone get up, stretch your legs, stretch your arms, and get yourself something to sip. That could be anything, just any sort of liquid to... Well, okay, make sure it's not poisonous. Make it hydrating. Or, well, I guess alcohol isn't necessarily hydrating. But you know, you get the idea. Drink something that won't hurt you. And... and I'll see you all in 5 minutes. I'm not even going to try to say anything anymore. I'll see you all in 5. I return with something to sip. Something that I am actively sipping. I personally am having more of that right pour that I mentioned a little while ago. The sort of fermented tea. No alcohol. But it is very earthy. Yeah, I've been reading so much and talking so much that having some sort of hydration really is important, and that's something that I've not done that I need to fix. Also, I saw Dakyanar said that apparently they have been contacted by Ben Hughes. Is that true? They're asking you to draw Simpsons females in ninja outfits no sexy? That is incredible. Yeah, what did everyone get to sip? I would like to know. Share with the class. Oh, Midnight Fox. Thank you so much for the sub. 3 months of sub. And they're saying really enjoying a second Mother Horse Eyes read through. Thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And of course, welcome to the bonus bean room. It doesn't get old. At some point, I'm going to have to make an alert with that. I would like to not use Streamlabs. I'm going to ask around to other streamers and see what they use, because I think that is something that I should set up at this point. So we have Coke Zero. Oh dear. Coffee? Does anyone want coffee? Pineapple kiwi show may white tea. Ooh, is that like a flavored tea? Some coffee. Second cup of coffee. San Pellegrino. Mocha hot chocolate. Your VTube avatar is very cute. Thank you. I'm glad you like him so much. Mineral Marrow, don't worry. That may be changing in the near future. Now, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. I've kind of been on the fence about whether I wanted to stream Total Warhammer or not. And while I was making my tea, I realized something. We kind of have to, because there's a meat man. Here, I'll... Total Warhammer, that's the RTS. One's Total Warhammer 3. Let me... You know what? I'm going to show you all the meat. Because at this point, like, with the presence of the meat man, we kind of have to.
The Flesh Legion marches.
Oh, it's loud.
Pestilent parade. Gaze upon the dominion of life and decay. A fertile universe pregnant with blaze. The time for virulent rebirth is upon you. Rejoice in proliferation. Share the gifts of Nagol.
Yeah, we I think that we might actually have to play just for the meat. Like the streams I do of Total Warhammer 3 will just be titled Meat Men. Right? Anyone else feeling that? I think we gotta. That's Nurgle. That's the Chaos God Nurgle. Oh my God, red, green, and blue. Did you just say the N-word? I decided to look at the comments of a stream that I did with Mike, and someone made a comment saying, like, Fred has a racist rant. Also, Fred, I take the moral victory, and I was so confused. I was like, did I have a racist what? Did I say something racist that I didn't realize it? And then I realized this was the last Unreal Estate, where I was saying that the person who messed with who messed with the Flintstones house and added all the Flintstone stuff, like, was the whitest person I'd ever seen, right? I think that they were saying that calling that white was racist. It took me, like, I was like, for a day and a half or something, I was like, what did I do? Like, did I say something that really upset someone that badly? And it took me forever to realize what it was. Oh dear. Anyway. that made me a little anxious for a bit. I was like, did I say something that bad? It must have been a joke, right? Oh dear. I knew that it wasn't a big deal either way, but I'd really rather not do something that would get me labeled that way, right? So, if you are just joining, we are in the middle of reading Mother Horse Eyes, but don't worry about coming in late, because at no point does this whole narrative make any sense anyway. So... Don't worry. Don't worry. If you've come in late, in the middle of the narrative, your experience is not going to be sullied by the fact that you're coming in late. If you're just joining, Fredrik is a meat racist. Oh god. Communicating with the New York Times? No, but if I get banned from the New York Times, how am I going to play Wordle? Okay, shall we return to Mother Horse Eyes? 15th post. How we lost the war. In explaining our cruelty, which I admit was quite beyond scope of all humanity, I feel I must remind you of how we lost the war. We lost the war in the cruelest way imaginable. Island after island fell, and the enemy drew closer and closer. More and more bombs fell on our cities. Food grew more and more scarce. People starved. Houses burnt. People burned. Children burned. We were punished by our own sense of dignity, by our own inability to admit inevitable and total defeat. It was like watching a sword slowly being sunk into your chest, millimeter by millimeter, but you refused to cry out, refused to whimper or beg for mercy, and there is nothing you can do but watch the metal disappear into your weeping flesh. By the end of 1944, it was clear that both Japan and Germany were doomed, barring some divine intervention. Yet the stories we knew from childhood told us that we had been saved by divine intervention before, when the fleets of Kublai Khan were at our shores, moving from island to island, conquering and raping until a miraculous typhoon sent their ships to the bottom of the ocean. That's true. Though we were modern men and trained in Western science, we still believed that there was some sacred destiny in store for the Japanese people, and we kept an eye out for something, anything which hinted of the divine. Two intriguing pieces of news had come to us via Germany, developments which suggested that perhaps the tide of the war could turn suddenly. Both, however, were ominous. One was that America was developing a superweapon, a bomb which could level entire cities, which used the latent power of the atom, unleashing very forces which held existence together. We assured ourselves that this was American propaganda, that no such weapon actually existed, but our scientists acknowledged that it was theoretically possible. The second piece of news was more puzzling. It was said that a Swiss scientist had synthesized a chemical which, like the American nuclear technology, could unleash latent forces, this time the forces of the mind. This chemical was said to fuse the various disparate areas of the mind and allow for incredible insights. Apparently, teams working under the influence of this chemical for long periods of time were capable of inventing techniques and devices previously unheard of. By the end of 1944, various high-ranking Germans were slipped out of Germany like rats from a sinking ship, often trying to fund their escapes by selling various pieces of artwork, technology, intelligence, etc. It was from one of these that we obtained an enormous supply of this wonder chemical, LSD, which was supposed to be secret even from Germany's allies. Along with the chemical, we were given a piece of news which was positively tantalizing, given the position we were in. According to our contact, experiments with LSD had been conducted at the Treblinka extermination camp. A group of prisoners was given the drug for a period of several months, and the results were so impressive that somehow the prisoners were able to convince the camp leaders to take the drug as well. Soon, the entire camp hierarchy was taking the drug and working together on a new device that was some sort of destructive radar, which could bring down planes as easily as ordinary radar found them. It was said to be powerful enough to slice bombers right in half. Of course, we found this piece of news hard to believe. Nazi death camp commanders working side by side with Jewish prisoners to invent a magical radar. It was utterly fantastical. Our good sense told us to ignore it. And yet, how could we? The Americans had already taken back the Philippines. Soon they would take Iwo Jima, then Okinawa, then all the home islands. We were facing the end of the Japanese as a free race, perhaps the end of all Japanese existence. The Germans would have it easy compared to us. Many Americans were German in origin. There was a blood affinity between the countries. This did not exist for us. The Americans would burn our cities and rape our women and enslave us, make us servants, and I'm afraid to say that word. We would be crossbred with the whites until we had become some degenerate half-castes. Japanese culture would crumble. The stories of our childhoods would be forgotten. We were watching a sword disappear into our hearts, and we were desperate for some kind of divine intervention. So, in late 1944, a glass jar of LSD crystals, enough for several million doses, was taken aboard a submarine and slipped under the cover of the sea back to the home islands. We were looking for divine grace. What we found was a hell beyond our darkest dreams of destruction. Yeah, this is from the point of view of Axis Japan, correct. They dumped the crystals into an underwater volcano and Godzilla appeared. Yeah. Oh, so someone had a question. Do you know if the links in these stories existed in the original posts or were they added later on? They were added to give context. I need sippy. Was the author on LSD when he wrote this? I'm pretty sure he's a drunk. That's the most I can assume from him. Although most, I'd say most writers in general have some substance that they're into. Mine is tea. Ascension. Just like the good old days. So this is a self-post to the subreddit that was taken over. I have actually talked with the person who compiled all of this, and she thanked me for making the video, which was pretty neat. Hello, friends. Thank you for your interest in my posts. I want to apologize to the community at large for posting them to threads whose relationship to their content is at best tangential. I simply had nowhere else to post my information where anybody would read it. Previously, I was operating a website wherein my information was laid out in a rather straightforward manner. I was quite convinced that the undeniable truth of this information would attract attention on its own accord. I was quite sure that somehow this grand truth would shine out as a beacon and resonate with receptive people, and quickly became widespread. As I recall, my best month brought about 400 visitors and a total of 4 non-spam comments. 75% of these recommended psychiatric intervention. So, here we find ourselves. I am attempting to use the techniques of fiction and suspense to hopefully generation interest, in this information. Your subreddit furthers this aim, and I sincerely thank you for creating it. I should clarify that this information is not fiction, nor is it true. It is a mix of things which happened and things which almost happened, things which were and things which could have been. You must understand that the present moment in which we exist is simply a nexus from which trillions of possible pasts and possible futures branch out. The important thing to realize is that these unreal pasts and unrealized futures are related to each other. By examining what might have been, we can come to understand what might come to be. I am writing about what has never been and what must never be. Unfortunately, our generation has been given a special burden. We are doomed, as the apocryphal Chinese curse has it, to live in interesting times. Soon, technological advances in the field of information technology and bioengineering will fundamentally reshape human existence. There are a number of possible outcomes, and I believe that most of them will result in the human race entering an unending era of absolute slavery. As a free species, we have seen totalitarianism before, and we have destroyed it. But when it arises again, aided by advanced information and biological technology, it will have a new and unprecedented ability to envelop the entire Earth and place humanity in an unalterable state of total mental and physical slavery that will last for uncounted millennia until the Earth becomes uninhabitable. Not only do I believe that this outcome is possible, I believe that it is overwhelmingly likely. Out of all the trillions of possible futures arrayed before us, 99.9999% of them result in this outcome. As Christ said, "Wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But narrow is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." We must find and enter the narrow gate, but it will not be easy. In order to find it, we must sort through the many possible pasts to find the few possible futures which result in a humanity free to live and die as humans, and not as an unholy agglomeration of mindless flesh. Unfortunately, as we fight against the forces of slavery and death, it will be precisely our instincts toward the preservation of freedom and life that will lead us to destruction. In short, we live in precarious times. I want to make clear that while this post shows clear and appalling signs of megalomania, I am actually aware that I am not a prophet or an expert. I am a 30-something American male without the benefit of a college education or a stable job. Sadly, I have spent most of my life drunk. My posts will contain a number of historical errors, both intentional and unintentional, as well as bad spelling, bad grammar, and laughably overwrought prose. Readers with a proper education will easily see through my attempts at erudition. In short, I have no proper formal qualifications for the task I have set out for myself. But I have personally experienced the intellectual mutations of which I write. Through repeated self-experimentation, I have fractured the time state of my brain, and now it exists in an ever-shifting state between various pasts which didn't happen. As such, I have been given what I believe is special insight into our possible futures. They are dark. The shadows of past atrocities pass and overlap with the shadows of future atrocities. Time is short. Recently, I have been beset with a persistent creativity that seems to grow stronger as the days go by. I fear this state is unsustainable. Perhaps eventually this productive mania will turn into an unproductive psychosis. And soon, on a larger scale, mankind's productivity will turn into its own sort of psychosis. Billions of years ago, the so-called primordial soup arranged itself into a self-replicating form which multiplied and flourished and divaricated into countless species. From our vantage point in the present, the singular moment of origin has become lost in the mists of time. Equally obscure to us is the future singularity towards which we are heading, the end point, in which all the countless species are once again reintegrated to a new and singular form, a new abomination. We are on the verge, all of us. Times are dire. We are about to be gathered again into the arms of the Mother, to become one flesh with her. The Mother who gathers lost children. The Mother I have seen in dark spaces since I was a little child, back when I called her the Mother with horse eyes. We are about to meet her again. We are about to be unborn. We need the Inception horn. Roll credits. I think that this was definitely the right decision to read this today, and we're not going to break just yet, but I want to take a moment because reading can be a little bit tiring. And I am rather tired. I have been very busy. I have a lot on my plate, and I definitely overdid it last week. I joined a couple of streams, and it was a bit much. Orange juice nut. That's nice. Unfortunately, I had sex with your mother. No, this is, I think what's kind of funny is that he's basically just describing himself as an author with a lot of this. It's just all of this is basically a a complicated way of saying, I am a fiction writer. Because everything that he says is just what fiction writers do. Let's see, where is it? This information is not fiction, nor is it true. It is a mix of things which happened and things which almost happened. Yeah, that's literally just writing. That's just what writing is. Yep, we exist in a nexus from which trillions of possible past and possible futures branch out. Yeah, and writing is just speculation on them. And writers often do have some sort of core concept or idea with which they are grappling that they want to share with their readers. He is a 30-something American male without the benefit of college education or a stable job. That describes just a lot of writers. Yeah, through repeated self-experimentation, I have fractured the time state of my brain, and now it exists in an ever-shifting state between various paths which didn't happen. Again, that's just what writers do. That's how you become a fiction writer. Emi Kasama, thanks for the 10 bits. Last bit there reminded me a lot of Genova and the reunion in Final Fantasy VII. Mother Horse Eyes play that game? Probably. And read Junji Ito? Probably. This is very influenced by already existing narratives, of course. You know, that's another thing that I was considering is reading through the documents of the Final Fantasy house. Right. How would you all feel about that? Taking time and just going and reading the Final Fantasy house stuff. Like the originals. People are into it? Yeah? Hell yeah. Yeah. All right. Sounds painful? Yeah. I'd be depressed? Perfect. I love these back into the rabbit hole episodes. Yeah, it's fun to kind of go back and look at all the stuff that I've left behind over time. That sounds like a disaster I'm in. It makes me feel icky. Perfect. You know, I think the best way that I can describe these streams is comfortable discomfort. That's what I'm aiming for anyway. Because there is a sort of comfort in the uncomfortable when there's a certain level of division. Oh, is the first video of yours I ever saw got me hooked on the channel. Oh, shucks. I think that that video is sort of the entry point for a lot of people. So, are you guys ready for the magical space pussy? Let's go. 16th post. Magical space pussy. When you're hanging out with a tribe of Nazi acid heads, magical space pussy doesn't even register on the weirdometer. I mean, they talked about so much weird shit and so much of it was total bullshit that I didn't pay any fucking attention to it. It was the 60s. Talking about magical space pussies was like asking somebody how their day went. It was just conversation to me. But to them it wasn't. This was a strange time in my life. I had spent the last 6 months going from commune to commune just checking them out. They were all bullshit. Every one of them was just some guy on a power trip and a bunch of women who'd grown up with bad fathers hanging on his every word, hoping he would solve all their problems. That's the only way the commune system worked. The guy got control of the women, and the women attracted a few guys to do the manual labor, but in the end it was basically just a new system of pimping. I mean, I'm from Brooklyn. I've seen pimping. These chicks had tried to escape society and just gotten themselves pimped out. It was tragic, but too tragic for me to give a shit about it. That is a very good line. It's too tragic for me to give a shit. It's good. Good writing. There's some really great moments of writing in here. I think what this person really just needs is an editor. Like someone to say yes or no, right? So I went out to Death Valley. Why did I go there? Why does anybody? Because it has a cool name. If it was called Some Scorpions and a Bunch of Fucking Rocks, which is what it actually is, nobody would go. I had decided that I was done with counterculture. I was done with the regular culture. I was done with it all. I would go where nobody would bother me and just try to figure myself out. Get a little peace and quiet. A month later, the Manson family moved in next door. For a while, it was just a nice little guy named Paul and some girls living a few miles from my little shack. Seemed harmless. Then the whole family came in. Charlie, too. They had already committed the murders at this point. It was big news, but nobody knew who did it. I surely didn't connect it to this band of weirdos next door. They seemed too stupid to pull off anything newsworthy, just another bullshit commune. Once Charlie got there, the family seemed to spend most of their time driving their dune buggies around, pretending to be the fucking Africa Corps. I mean, Charlie would put on a helmet with a swastika and lead them in maneuvers. I had never met racist Nazi hippies before, but there's a first time for everything. Some of them even talked about Uncle Adolf and how he knew the score, how he should have won the war. I was a mechanic in the army, so I helped them out with the buggies and got to know them a little. Slowly, their little philosophy trickled down to me. They thought America was on the verge of an apocalyptic race war. Blacks on whites, helter-skelter, the Watts riots in every city. That part actually seemed pretty plausible. I mean, you have to understand. In 1969, the country had been getting weirder and weirder, more and more violent every year. Nobody was quite sure when it would end. Nobody knew that in the 70s, the counterculture would just kind of peter out into a bunch of fucking James Taylor albums. They said that they had come to the desert to find a hideout, so they would be safe while the helter-skelter race war was going on. They said that somewhere out in the desert, there was a bottomless pit full of wonders and treasures. In the Bible, Revelation speaks of the tree of life, which bears 12 kinds of fruit, one for every month. They said this tree was growing inside the bottomless pit and would give them all the food they wanted while they waited out the war. When it was over, they said, they would emerge and Charlie would rule the world as the new Christ. So that part was a little less plausible. And then I started hearing about the magical space vagina. I had become friends with Paul, who was actually a nice guy who just wanted to fuck the girls and get stoned and didn't really get into the whole Nazi thing. He said that they were searching for the entrance to the bottomless pit. He said that entrance would be made of flesh growing out of rocks, like a giant pussy so big you could stroll right in. I told him he thought about pussy way too much. But he was serious. He said that the technology to turn rocks into flesh was from outer space, and its secrets had been taught to Charlie by Uncle Adolf. Until then, I had thought that Uncle Adolf was their name for Hitler. Slowly, as I learned more, I started to realize that they were talking about somebody who was still alive. Somebody they actually knew. They told me he was coming soon. 17th post. Euphoria and terror. This kind of psychological mirroring was okay, so actually, hold on. Let's see what the comment was, if it's still there. Because this is replying directly to someone. Show parent comments. Soldiers running drills on LSD in the 1960s. Is this still around? Hey. So this is them trying to run drills on LSD and they're all just laughing. They're having a great time. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I couldn't stop laughing when they laughed, especially right at the end when they look serious for a moment and the guy in the middle loses it. This kind of psychological mirroring was exploited in the design of the flesh interfaces. When a human body is embedded in an interface, the independent, i.e. non-human interface glands produce massive amounts of LSD, which cause intellectual mutations, i.e. time fracturing along several dozen axes. Meanwhile, independent hormone regulators produce an emotional oscillation between two states. 1. Euphoria. 2. Terror. Thus, we have the typical sound of an interface. alternating waves of giggling and screaming that move through the interface population, running along the length of the interface as the hormones travel along the independent conduits. These successive waves of giggling and screaming create a steady rhythm that washes over the traveler as they move through the interface. Natural empathetic responses, mirroring, prepare the traveler's body for the process of embrace. And then the replies to this, what? and then someone replied by just making the text big. I was expecting you. Kind of curious what this was all about. Probably some sort of viral marketing. Viral marketing was kind of getting popular during this time. Alternating between giggles and fear just sounds like an average Fred stream. That's fair. You know what? I can't really contest that. You're everywhere. You're everywhere. Tell me your fleshy secrets. Yes. What the fuck is this? You posted a few of these and they're kind of fucked up, man. Keep going though. They're interesting to read. No. Don't worry, guys. Pro Bro has got our backs. He's going to lay down the law. 18th post. New mommy. When I was little, they took mommy away and put me with a new mommy in a smelly, dark house. They said she was a real person, but I knew she wasn't. They had made her. Her face was made from pieces of animal. Pig cheeks, hairy goat jaw, old horse eyes. They sewed her together badly, and the seams were crusty. I hated her. Real mommy called me from underground. I opened the attic window at sundown and let the spring breeze flow in. I heard her song floating in on the cool air, soft singing from the grave. Title drop! 19th post. Let's do a couple more posts and then we'll take our second break. I need some more tea. 19th post. Embrace. Watching the flesh interface process known as embrace is kind of like watching those Japanese subway groping videos. That was honestly the first thing I thought of when I watched it, but of course I wasn't going to put that in the official report. You ever seen those videos? No, you wouldn't admit it if you had, right? It's a whole genre over there. Not the most progressive stuff in terms of gender equality, but compelling nonetheless. The videos start with a woman standing in the subway, minding her own business, when some guy starts feeling her up. She protests demurely and attempts to deflect his roaming hands. He persists. Other men on the subway, perhaps sensing her weakness, join in with the groping. A sort of group madness takes over the subway occupants. The men are transformed from ordinary travelers into an agglomerated mass of arms and hands and fingers, grabbing every part of the woman's body. The woman's attempts at protecting her personal space are always absurdly ineffectual, and soon she is divested of her clothing. Depending on the video's subgenre, a variety of acts ensue, most of which surely violate local transportation statutes. Embrace is kind of like that. That, combined with the school of piranha stripping a live cow of its flesh. A whole genre like egg laying. 20th post. The Island. We'll do this and then we'll do our break. Lying in the hold, listening to the bombardment, there is no sleep. The booming of the guns travels through the shivering metal of the ship. Hour after hour, without end, the arsenal of democracy rains down on the tiny island. This is technically a slur? What could it be like for the Japanese huddled in their bunkers? Surrounded. Doomed. Do they know they have no hope? Do they expect death? Do they wish for it? Death. The island is death, waiting for them. Ancient, waiting since before they were born. Thousands of young men have crossed vast oceans to come to her, following paths they could have never foreseen. Thousands of young lives will converge on her shores, converge and end. After 3 days of round-the-clock bombardment, a clear and bright morning. Whispers through the hold about problems with the shells. Many of them never exploded, disappeared in the air. There have been stories of bombers being cut in half, of bomb crews emerging limbless from their planes. What is on the island? Some new kind of weapon? Something the Japanese have been saving until now? Just talk. The men feel the death out there waiting on the island. So remember, the Japanese were experimenting with flesh interface technology. The landing vehicles ride through the waves, and the Marines climb out onto beaches of ash, an alien surface crumbling under their boots. There is no fire, no sound but the motors and the clinking of gear and the sergeants shouting, urging them on. No movement from the interior. Then screams, bloody stumps, men cut in half, but still no fire. How is there no fire? More men screaming. Groups of men on the ground howling, bright red lumps where their limbs had been. How? No sign of the Japanese. No fire. No shells. More vehicles land. The beaches become crowded, a crowded, screaming nightmare. There is something here, something beyond their understanding. Invisible, killing at will. Is it the island itself? A few men manage to advance up the steep beaches and across the rocks, but soon they are cut apart as well. Other men follow and advance farther. They have been trained to advance, take the beach, forward, always forward. Slowly, the men find their way farther and farther into the island interior. Through horrible trial and error, they begin to understand. They don't speak of their discovery. They don't believe it. But their overwhelming will to go forward and their overwhelming fear of death teach them what their minds cannot accept. Teach them a lesson about the island. They notice tracks through the ash and rock where there is no grass. These tracks are not foot trails, but deep tracks carved at strange angles, striated like dry streams, places where it seems the ground is simply missing. They realize they must avoid these tracks. If they step onto them or let any part of themselves pass over them, that part will disappear, whether it is their fingers or feet or limbs or even their heads. Sometimes parts of their bodies disappear even when they don't cross the tracks, and they realize that there are unseen tracks through the air, invisible boundaries they must not cross. If they lose a part of their bodies, the blood does not flow, but there is pain. Pain beyond flames or knives or bullets. Pain unbearable, unholy, inhuman. There are screams all around them of men who have accidentally run afoul of the invisible power. There is no time to understand this, to reason it out. They simply adapt, moving carefully, holding out blades of wild grass or shirts or gear, probing, waiting for part of the object to disappear, then stopping, testing for a way forward. Sometimes they find it. Sometimes they are forced to turn back. In less than an hour, they have forgotten entirely about the artillery and snipers and bayonets. There are no soldiers, only entrances to empty bunkers, abandoned pieces of artillery, some cut in half, but no enemy. They are playing a new game now, taught to them by some unseen teacher, playing it with total concentration. Playing and winning. The Marines wounded with their strange unbleeding wounds are taken away. Their screams fade. Orders from command are unchanged. Take the island. So, they move forward, up, towards Mount Suribachi. The mountain is shaped like a bowl, a dead volcano. They approached by various paths, each man following another, taking a narrow path of safety. Makeshift markers are set up to show their boundaries. A Marine turns and sees, floating like a butterfly, a severed human arm. It turns and floats away and disappears altogether. Minutes later, a disembodied pair of legs scrambles past. The Marines curse and speculate and even giggle, but keep moving forward. There is no time to understand. They expected to spend weeks taking the island. Now it seems they could have it in a couple hours. A shot rings out, the first shot since the confusion of the landing. A Marine is firing at the mountain. Others peer through their binoculars and spy a man sitting on the rim of the mountain. Simply sitting. Alone. Just a vague shape. Snipers are called in and they fire on him, but the island's air seems to swallow the bullets. The man is untouched. They press forward. Sorry, I looked at chat and Bootplug says, I can't even hear Fred over the cacophony of giant space pussy echoing in my skull and people freaking out and asking if this was real. You know what? Fair. They press forward. The deadly tracks wind around them, growing more numerous. Some of the men find themselves at dead ends. One Marine slips and disappears entirely without so much as a shout. They come to the foot of the mountain. It is small but rugged and steep, and the lone man sits over them, looking down on them. They hear the sounds now, coming from the other side of the ridge, coming from within the giant bowl of the mountain. Human voices, many of them. Thousands. The sounds of laughter, giggling and cackling and howling laughter. Like a wonderful party where somebody is telling a hilarious story. The Marines listen to it, dumbfounded. Slowly, the laughter fades, and there is a new sound, a strange rushing roar that quickly breaks apart into discrete sounds. Screams, shouts, gasps, weeping, terror. The sound rises, and the Marines shudder. This too fades, and the laughter returns, and so these two sounds trade places over and over, fading in and out above the sound of the waves. A Marine trains his binoculars on the mountain again. The man is still sitting there. Japanese, wearing a uniform. His head is floating several feet above his body. The body is in several pieces with lines of sunshine between them. His face, sweat dripping over the smooth eyelids, shows no emotion. Slowly he raises his hand, as if to wave to them, and his fingers float away from his palm. Protector of Jam. Redditors, source? Oh dear. Now, this is very strange. And I remember, like, it's very good. It still does feel a bit amateur, right? There is an amateurishness to the writing that almost makes it more believable because it's just a dude posting to Reddit. I made it up. You're in love with this imagery. It's good. It's good imagery, right? So I think I'm going to step away. I'm going to make myself some tea. I encourage everyone to get themselves a drink, and we'll be right back. I think now, for the last part of the stream, I think that we're just going to sit and chat a little bit because my voice definitely needs a little break. It's a little bit tired, and I do need to record some scratch audio for Ryan today for the script, so I would like to save a bit of my voice. But we'll hang out and chat for the end of the stream. And then we'll scoot on over to Limes. But for now, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Everyone get up, stretch, get yourself something to drink, and I'll see you all in about 5. Hello, everyone. Please inform me. What is your sippy? Okay, I definitely needed something to sip. Water is absolutely valid. Water is always a good choice. I definitely am low energy today, just because I have had so much going on. But I'm still feeling pretty good. I think that the reading stream was a good choice. A little bit less exhausting. Don't have to engage with it quite as much. Something that I can just chill. And something I wanted to talk a little bit about was my sort of different paradigm when it comes to streaming now. Because in the past when I've streamed, I've always been historically I've been very concentrated on growth and trying to get to the point where, I have a larger audience. During, I do keep an eye on the numbers because I'm curious. It's good. Not only does it let me know how well how well the stream is doing in terms of size, but it also lets me know what you guys like. And it's nice to look at the numbers and just say, even if it's not quite as high as it usually is, it's fine. It's because it's just this is something that I just do for my own pleasure. Oh dear, something hitched for a second there. Not sure what happened. But it's nice that I just don't have to worry as much about it. I will try to do things, right? I will try to grow, but it's nice that there is not so much pressure because it's essentially a side gig that I'm doing now. So I can just kind of do what I want. Within reason. And I'll figure it out. There's a balance. There always is a balance to be struck, right? If I'm streaming, I want to share things and do things that people enjoy watching and listening to. I want to put on a good show. But it also has to be balanced with what I want. Don't need a large following if everyone is paying $100 a month. Well, even then, I don't have to worry that much about the income that I'm getting from stream. And it does help. Make no mistake, it does help. And it's extremely appreciated, everyone that supports me and the things that I do. It's really nice that I don't have to take sponsorships. Because I don't like taking sponsorships. It always feels weird. And it's nice that I can be funded just by the people who like what I do. So make no mistake, it's nice, but it also is nice to have streaming as something I do where income is not the primary. It's not the incentive. It's not the primary incentive. It's different because I've mentioned this before on stream, but back before I was doing YouTube, I was trying to make it as a streamer. And in order to in order to grow any amount, I had to focus really hard on streaming consistently. And when the numbers were down, I felt like I was failing. Whereas now, it's this stream isn't getting as many views. Okay. That's fine. It's not a big deal. It just means, okay, maybe my viewership just isn't as interested in this particular thing. That's fine. Maybe I'd still do it anyways if I really enjoy it or I really feel like it. But I can experiment because it's a space where I have a lot of room. There's not nearly so much pressure to grow constantly like there used to be. Oh, PewDiePie's son. How long is the EVE Online episode going to be? I've predicted about 4 hours, but it might end up being a little bit longer, depending. I'm doing a lot more than the nullsec wars, which is part of why it's so big. I'm also talking about CCP's endeavors outside of EVE Online or the games that are tied to it. I'm talking about HiSec as well, because there really is not a lot of talk about the economy of EVE Online and how it affects the game, because EVE Online is a lot more than just nullsec. Everyone just knows about the wars, like the nullsec wars, but it's not just that. And by the way, CCP is not China. I'm talking about the game, not the game, the company that makes produces EVE Online, Crowd Control Productions. Are you sponsored by Shipmunk Tea Incorporated? Yes. That is my one sponsorship. I might take a tea sponsorship. That would be pretty fun, actually. But it would be a tea company that I really like. No, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a long video, and it's gonna be a little bit longer before the Eve video is out. Early May is the goal. We can do it. And yeah, Ark is here. Ark Axon, the moderator that just wrote in chat, is the graphic designer. He's making a bunch of diagrams for the video. Ooh. But yeah, thinking about what I want to do for the streams, I'm going to experiment a little bit. I think reading things can be nice, and I think that a lot of people do like it, but I also think there needs to be some level of interaction. Because reading's nice, but I just read things for a living. Like, I'm reading scripts for a living, and I'd like the streams to be a little bit more than an audiobook, right? I think that the lesson that I've taken away here is the stream needs to be a little bit more than an audiobook. And maybe there are times, maybe if I'm going to read something like this, it would be best to have a guest. And actually, next week, I have planned to read the story of Denko. I mentioned this before, but next week I'm planning to read the story of Denko, and specifically Denko's stalker. Translated very kindly by an internet denizen. I'm going to be reading that with Chris Yim, aka Chester the Otter. That's the plan right now for next Tuesday. That is going to be interesting. If you don't know the story of Denko, you are in for a treat. It is a classic piece of internet lore. Tea. I think that having a guest while reading something would be good, just because there would be some back and forth. It's hard to really engage with just lots of heavy writing, unless it's an SCP. SCPs are a little bit different, where I can stop and sort of examine it and discuss with all of you, because reading an SCP is more like a treasure hunt than anything else, because you're gathering little bits of information and coming to understand it better and better. So maybe that's what makes it different, because I feel like SCPs are more interactive just by their nature. Main Dog, yes, you're an SCP, and we're all trying to figure you out as we go. But there also, I also need to experiment, and I've mentioned it before. I need to experiment with games. I think that if I am going to game, it is going to be a very specific kind of game. It needs to be something strange or off the wall, like Cruelty Squad. I know that there are a lot of people in chat who want to see me play Cruelty Squad, and I'm sure that that will be interesting. And of course, Space Warlord. That's going to happen. And I think that playing Nurgle, just because meat seems to be the theme of the stream, so playing Nurgle feels like it would fit pretty well. And there are lots of odd games that I'm sure would fit. Nurgle is the god of pestilence and decay, and you can play as him in Total Warhammer 3, which is coming out very soon. Baba is you. I played Baba is you. Sorry. I've already played it. Baba is you, brain is melt. Yeah. Nah, I feel like... I feel like there are enough chill streams, right? We don't need more chill streams. And while a stream can have chill vibes, I think that the chill and hang out is a bit of a saturated market. Calling something a chill stream is just such a cliche at this point. The other problem with gaming is that often games have stories, and if someone comes in partway through a game, then they're not going to know what the story is. And I want people to be able to join the streams at any time. Sippy sip. You cannot see it. Hidden sippy. Crouching owl hidden sippy. T-stream with Spidey hands. I've been thinking about that, doing a T-stream again. We'll see. Might get to show people. Ooh, another thing that I need to do is read bad fanfics. I had an idea for a charity stream where I start reading the longest fanfiction ever written, that Super Smash Brothers one, and I keep going. People can add time to keep reading it by donating. That would be terrifying. Maybe I swap off with Mike. Oh god, I have to talk to him about that. That'd be terrifying. It's no longer the longest fanfiction. What? Talk to me. What is the longest fanfiction now? One that copy pastes random Wikipedia articles. Okay, that doesn't count. That's not fair. That's cheating. After a certain threshold, add incentives where people can donate to reduce the... Jesus. Make it a war. A bidding war. Oh, Christ. Pines await. Thank you very much for subbing. A tier 2. Of course. Welcome to the bonus spin room. I really need... I need a stream deck. I need to ask Mike what he does for his soundboard. Because I don't know how he does his. And it seems to work pretty well. Because he has a stream deck, right? Yeah, he uses one. I remember he was complaining about it breaking the other night. Oh, and Chimerically Lost has subbed as well for 2 months now. Thank you so much. And of course, welcome to the bonus bean room. I'm gonna take that video and maybe... Oh, would I have to turn... I need to look at my options for stream alerts. Just get the 15 button one. How much do stream decks run for? How much are they usually? Fully expect Mike to press soundboard keys with his penis. There are gaming peripherals that allow you to press buttons with your feet. Not into it. A feet, yes. $200? Yeah, they're called pedals. Okay, no, they're, okay, the problem, the one that I remember seeing, I think it was called a stinky board or something. It's terrible. They know what they're doing. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, it was called a stinky board. The stinky footboard. There it is. Yep. They didn't have to call it that. They didn't have to. They didn't have to. God, I'm not happy. I'm not happy, Bob. Some speedrunners use footboards for time. Yeah, they use pedals. They could have named it anything. They could have named it anything. Anything that they wanted. And they named it the stinky board. Don't. Please don't. Undo. Do not. No, I mean, like, when I was growing up, my dad got us some cheap plastic pedals for racing games, right? Because my dad kind of got into racing games for a little bit. At least it's not the kinky footboard. No, this is worse. This is worse. This feels worse. Maybe it's just because my sense of smell is pretty strong. I hate bad smells. I hate it when I smell bad. I hate it when, yeah, I don't know. I'm just very sensitive to that kind of thing. So this is just like, no. Knowing gamer hygiene, it's an accurate name. King Lulu dear is correct. Ugh. Gamers. All right, T-Sippy. Haha. At least I have nice smelling tea. God, the stream is kind of nice because I've got so much work to do. I'm actually a little bit behind on the script, but it's like this stream is like staving off work just a little bit. No, I'm thinking I right now, especially since the streams are so new, right? This is one of my first streams back. This is like my third or fourth week streaming again, like regularly. This is a time of experimentation, figuring out what I want to do and what my viewers want to see. It's going to be tricky. I'm going to be learning a lot. I am very far from a professional streamer, as most of you have probably experienced by this point. But I'm figuring things out. It's always going to be a balance. And I don't think that what I want to do and what the stream wants to see has to be mutually exclusive. I think that in a lot of cases, I can find things that I really love sharing and doing, and that are also things that the stream wants to see. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Bathune Tradu, do what you want to do and people will come to you or at you. I think, or come at me, right? I think that there is some truth to that statement, but there is also something to be said about entering saturated markets, right? Because there are tons of streamers who are just doing what they want to do and finding difficulty, finding success. It's not all. That's not all of the equation. I mean, down the rabbit hole is, it fills a niche that wasn't really filled, and still in a lot of ways isn't totally filled. There's still space in that realm. There are people who sort of imitate certain parts of it, while like the commentary community, I think, takes things from that little niche and then shoves it in, but they sort of are also in their they sort of are also in their own niche. It's a matter of not only, like, there are certain elements that are important, because if you're going to stream, you usually have to be doing something that you like doing or are at least interested in, something that motivates you, otherwise you just burn out. But there also has to be some level of meeting the demand of a viewership. Like, what do viewers want to see? Like, if I just came and quietly streamed Stardew Valley every day, I don't think that there would be as many people interested. There'd be some, sure. But it's a trap. Yeah, and King Lulu Deer is making a point. I think a lot of streamers fall into a trap of doing the same stuff over and over again to keep their audience. Yeah, that can happen. And I think that sometimes there is a balance to be struck. Sometimes people just want the same thing over and over, but streams are a rather voluminous way of creating content. So you have to keep in mind that when you're doing something, if you just do the same thing over and over and over again, eventually there will have been so much content made that you have saturated it. You have saturated your own stream with particular kinds of content. Some people make it work, right? Like, they stream one particular game, and that's it. That's what I tried to do for a while, but it locks you in quite badly, and it can be difficult to maintain it, especially as interest in whatever they're doing dies off. So I'm not necessarily saying that variety streams are the best thing ever either. They're sort of their own ecosystem. You have people who stream a variety of games, and then other people say, hey, I want to do that too. And then they have a lot of trouble because they just can't even find an audience in the first place, because it's a saturated market. And I think that all of the slots for variety streamers are filled up. There are a lot of factors that go into it. And the streaming world is one that I am not as familiar with, but I do see the patterns. And there are some similarities. I feel like you have a defined sense of taste that separates you from the others. Maybe. And I also have to, I can't just rely entirely on that, right? There's an element of meeting what people want to see, because let me put it this way. What I want to do is create an entertaining and interesting stream. And there are a lot of ways that you can make an entertaining and interesting stream. If I just wanted to play Stardew Valley, I'd just play Stardew Valley. But when I'm streaming, I want to share things with people. I want to create an entertaining piece of media. And there absolutely is a balance to be struck. I can share the things that I enjoy, but I'm not going to share it if I don't think it's going to be entertaining for people, because at that point, I just explore it entirely on my own and not stream it. So that's why I think that just saying do whatever you want doesn't quite work, because if you want to create an entertaining stream, then you're going to have to consider the desires of your audience. And I don't think that has to be something that is separate from what you want. I think that you can find things that you want to share with people, whether that's your experiences playing games. And again, success is something that is a sliding scale as well. Different people have different definitions of success. I personally enjoy building a stream and growing an audience. I think it's interesting, and I think that I can gauge interest in some of the things I do by watching the numbers. Numbers certainly are not every part of the equation. Certainly not. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of things I could do with Down the Rabbit Hole to make it more successful, quote unquote, to make the number go up. But I don't define success purely in terms of numbers. I define success in a lot of different ways, and those definitions of success all have to be balanced against one another. Because if I just wanted to earn a lot of money, I would start taking sponsorships and stuffing my videos with tons and tons of ads. If I wanted to maximize viewership, I would just pick trendy topics, or I would have just stuck with, like, lolcows, right? Yeah, I would have optimized my thumbnails way more and, like, tried to follow all of the trends. There are a lot of things that I could be doing to maximize those numbers. So my point is, it's not just about numbers. Success is different for every person. For some people, streaming to 5 people is what they want. There are some people who don't want to have their audience grow beyond a dozen people. The point I'm making is that while I would like the stream to grow, I also am conscious of what I want to do and what I think I can offer. Do I think that I'm going to be the biggest streamer ever? No, but that's not my goal. My goals are perhaps more modest than a lot of people. I don't think I'm ever going to be a massive streamer. I don't think I'm going to be, like, anywhere near as big as Mike ever, for example. I mean, if I do, great. Fantastic. But right now, my goal is experimentation. Find what my audience wants. Find what all of you want. And balance that against what I'm willing to do and what I'm interested in. For example, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to do ridiculous, embarrassing things, right? I'm not going to become the new Jackass. That's just not my interest. I'm not going to become a prank bro. So you want to build a streamer cult? Oh dear. Not gonna shit your pants at the DMV because your subs tell you to. Peepo leave. Just here for the crypto advice. Literally everything I say is financial advice. Oh god. And yeah, the audiences that I get will be different. I'm not trying to replicate an audience. Oh god, you got a crypto ad coming into your stream. Look, the moment you see advertisements trying to get you to invest in crypto, you're too late. It means you're too late to the market. If someone else needs to convince you to buy into a bigger fool scheme, then you're too late. Maybe too vague advice, but I think experimenting with the types of things that fit into your niche, intriguing corner your channel usually covers is good for now. Yeah. It's what I like. I mean, and this is just my personal interest too. There are a lot of things that I discovered that just would not make a suitable rabbit hole that I still want to share with everyone. That's what the Warrens was initially, actually. But I think that streams are also a fun place to do these things too, because there's so many strange things that are fun to talk about and share. Maybe one day we also play The Room, the game, just for fun, right? There are so many fun, weird things that we can do that work for a stream, and maybe not elsewhere. And the fact that the streams are only 3 hours long means that I have some flexibility. What happened to the Warrens? Life happened, and I just got really, really busy, and we haven't been able to record, but we plan to. Live hurdy-gurdy. I might end up sharing hurdy-gurdy stuff on stream sometime. That's a possibility. If your stream isn't an info hazard, why even stream? Yeah, Marco, it's not a matter of overthinking. I think that there are a lot of things I can do that aren't that difficult to divine that would help build the stream. I don't think it's a matter of overthinking. It's a matter of finding what fits. And I don't think that it needs to consume too much of my headspace. I think it's consuming... right now, streams are consuming a comfortable amount of headspace. Sayrus. Oh my goodness. 3 gift subs. For a total of 65? Jesus Christ. Thank you so much. And of course, Tamila Denters, Project M, 0226, and Valkyrie. Welcome to the bonus bean room. Perfect. Throw some beans at them. They didn't ask for them, but they're getting beans. Chuck the beans. No, thank you very, very much. I didn't ask for beans. Well, it's about that time, everyone. The stream is concluding. I've got a lot of work to do today. I mean, I have a lot of work to do every day at this point. I have writing. I need to meet with Ark. Ark, actually, you're here. When would you like to meet? Because I have a few more things I want to get done before we meet, but I can meet in... want to say an hour and a half? Will you be good to meet in an hour and a half? Before we leave, though, we need to look at art. Because I know that we have some. Anytime, TBH? Hour and a half is good? Perfect. Let's plan on that. We have a few things, and all of them are from Ika Pika. Which is scary. We have... So first, from Ika Pika, we have more Harpy Loren. Rather than thanking you, I'll just simply acknowledge you. How fucking dare you? You made art. Congratulations. Which is what I said to him after he made art of the Harpy Loren with talons up front. Feet pics. Unironically, though, the art is so good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we have more Ika Pika. We have a meme edit, which is great. Fred, did you lay this egg? I got totally railed for 6 hours straight. What do you expect? Jesus Christ. I'm never gonna live that down. Thank you for the fucking edit. Is this JoJo? Of course. Who am I kidding? Of course it's JoJo. It's always JoJo. If I have to ask, it's JoJo. Egg. And we also have a piece of Lunar New Year art. More Harpy Loren. Happy Lunar New Year. This is so this is absolutely adorable. Like this is like the dichotomy of Ika Pika, and maybe these streams as well, because we have. Oh wait, you know what I can do? I can move Loren. This is like, oh, we're just cozy and having a good time. Also fate. No, this is absolutely precious. Thank you so much. For real, thank you so much. I love it all. Even the meme shit. And well, thank you everyone for the stream. Haha, that was fun. We're going to go and invade Limes. Because she's streaming Dark Souls right now. What? All right, we need a message. All right, you know what? In chat, everyone, give me your suggestions for a raid message. And next stream, I think we're going to do some meat game. There is one more art? What did I miss? Wait, what do you mean there's one more art? Hold on. What do you mean there's one more art? What? Where? Where? I'm not seeing it. From other guy? Wait, what do you mean from other guy? I'm not... is it somewhere other than Twitter? Because that's where it is. Did they tag the wrong thing? So if you want to share art, tag me on my Loren owl friend Twitter. Discord? Question mark? Did I... Hold on. Where is it? Can I be informed of its location, please? You know what? We'll check it out next time, one way or the other. Because right now, we need to hit up Limes. Thank you very much, everyone, for a nice stream. And I will see you all on Thursday. Not too long. We will most likely be doing Meat Game. Alright. Bye, everyone.